How we doing, guys, gals and non-binary pals? Info here with another memes build video. Now this Necromancer, purely built him, he was my Dark Pact Necromancer, but I just wanted to experiment with the new Sacred Totem. Because, you know, I love it when new items come out. I like to try and make memes builds based off of them. And I got this one wrong, in the sense that I saw that you may summon 4 additional revives, and immediately was like, I can flood the screen with revives. So, you know, I went out and made an eternity, and I was so happy. You know, instead of 8 revives, 18 revives. This is crazy. But it did run into some problems, which we will discuss now. So, start off with skills, as usual. So, in the summoning tree, we have all the 1-point wonders. But because we have lots and lots of skill points, of course, end up being pretty decent. You know, we've got some charms, of course. But so, Blood Warp, 2.4 second cooldown. I'm fine with that. It doesn't need to be at nothing for me. I don't like constantly teleporting, especially when it takes your life away. So we've got a Iron Golem, which is, you know, fairly respectable. He's got, you know, a little bit of life, surrounded by revives, so, you know, he doesn't tend to get caught out. It's usually just some kind of particularly scary boss pack that's penetrated the pocket, or, you know, some kind of scary boss with lots of elemental damage just flooding through everything might take him out. But, you know, we got the Iron Golem, and again, I've got battle orders on Switch for once with this character, although I'll explain the folly of that in a minute. So yeah, we got max revives. So for me, it's level 40. So we have 18 monsters because of Eternity and Sacred Totem. Now, I did want to talk a little bit about revives, because in LOD, you could revive an elemental, you know, version, but it was incredibly jank. And so what the devs did, I think it was around about season 8 or something, I don't remember, they added an elemental damage bonus to revives. And the difference, as you can see, is quite huge. It's 1,000% at level 4 for elemental, but 1,600% for physical damage. So keeping in line with the fact it used to just be a physical, you know, build. For me, I'd like to see them maybe come in line a bit better, because the choices of monsters you can have for elemental are not brilliant. Like, the damage is pretty bad. So what I've done with this build is I've just gone away from the, you know, having a split of elemental and physical side of things, and gone for 8 physical tanks, and then the other 10 are ranged but physical battens, should we say. I really would like it if the elemental was a bit more in line, because you could, you know, the idea of an elemental, you know, summoner with revives for me is very cool. Like I said, at least just a split. But yeah, I'll go over monster types. So for me, I was using the Misshapen, because they do get into melee range for combat when necessary, but shooting the lightning balls, now they shoot very slowly when they're revives. It can do a fair amount of damage with lower resist, but it's just not very fast. It's a fun meme. I absolutely love it as a memes builder myself, but it has the potential to wreck. Maybe the elemental being a bit more in line with the physical could work. Obviously, the go-to choice that most people know about is reviving council members, so they cast Hydra. Now, they do pound, but that's because of the changes to Hydra. They really do make a difference, and they're obviously the best in slot elemental there. Next in line for that, I would say, is probably the vampires. Getting the Arcane Sanctuary and, you know, River of Flame and all those kind of places. You know, the Firewall is not brilliant. The Meteor is. But they're a bit all over the place. They try and go in and use their cold touch melee attack. They're running around constantly like, oh, like headless chickens. If you can get a bunch of them to Meteor at once, it is fairly devastating. But again, even with low resist and, you know, 10 of them maybe hitting at once, which never happens, it's still not brilliant. It's a shame, really. Again, I'd love to see the elemental part come in. And also, I would say you don't really need Eternity and Sacred Totem. 18 revives is too much, unless, of course, as I said, there was, you know, the elemental damage got brought in line more with the physical, and then hell yeah, you want 18 revives. But as it stands at the moment, you don't need to. Eternity's a very expensive weapon, and to be honest, on a Necromancer it's kind of wasted. You know, you might as well give an Eternity to someone else who's memeing that wants to cast revives, like, you know, the typical Sorceress one with enchants. But obviously that got nerfed to high heaven because in Season 10, revives only get like 1/14 of the bonus or something like that to from enchant. And it's like, oh my god, that was ruined. So, yeah, no, don't do that build anymore. Fun build back in the day, that was. But yeah, so you could go with a nice wand here instead. Some kind of nice Necromancer wand. And use Sacred Totem instead, would be my advice. But again, I'm jumping the gun here. So that's the Summoning Tree. Max Revive, 1-point wonders. Poison and Bone Tree. Max Desecrate as a synergy to revive to get their damage up. 2,000 damage that it does. If for some reason, you know, you can spam it on bosses just to help out a little bit once you've cast your curses. You're like, what else am I doing here? Nothing. So yeah, it could be useful. And obviously Bone Armor, even with, you know, a 1-point wonder, it's still 615 damage, which is, you know, either one hard hit in hell or roughly two, you know, sort of softer hits in hell. And it's a good early warning symbol. You hear the from your Necromancer and you see the bone shields disappeared a bit because I look down at the counter at the bottom there. If I see it's gone down heavily, I'm like, oh, quick, redeploy, do a blood warp, get away, and recast Bone Armor. But again, it's not often. It's very safe. You're surrounded by revived bodies. It's fantastic. So, with this initially, what I did is 20 points Curse Mastery, so you can have 3 curses. I barely used the 3rd curse, to be honest. Especially these days that I've gone away from the lower resist. So I mostly just used Amp and Decrepify. Because Decrepify has been brought back to its glory days. You know, the more points you put in, the more minus physical damage resistance the enemies get, which is fantastic. So you couple that with Amp and, you know, everything just melts. And if for some reason you really can't break that physical enemy, you weapon switch and you cast Battle Cry as well. So yeah, Decrepify, Amplify, Battle Cry, you're absolutely fine. It's great stuff. I would possibly change, which I'll get onto, my Mercenary, because he's a hangover from my Dark Pact days. I just didn't change him. I was being lazy. But if I was to keep lower resistant rotation and maybe have a few elemental guys, because it is fun. You know, it's not really about, you know, this is a memes build. It's not going to kill massively fast. Although saying that, it destroys bosses. But you could go with lower resist still and have an Act 3 Mercenary of some description, just pounding down the elements. It would save me using my Iron Golem, because, just to show you quickly, what I did here is I have Purity weapons, so that all of my revives have life on hit from the Prayer Aura. Now, you could just skip that, you know, ditch him, get an Act 3 Cold Mercenary with built-in Purity, save a point into the Iron Golem, have something else, you know, an Aura perhaps if you fancy rich. But yeah, you could just have things chilled from the Act 3 Mercenary as well, and then stick a Templars on him and you got your Might Aura. But like I said, I kept my Mercenary because he had a Might Aura to help out my Dark Pact, you know, 3 golems I had on that. But anyway, back to Skillages. So yeah, I put as much into Amp as possible, much into Decrepify. We're only level 85, so again, you could play about with the Curse skill tree. So yeah, that's the skills. So let's move on to gear. So as I said before, we have Eternity for the you may summon 6 additional revives. It's actually a powerhouse of a weapon when it comes to the melee and physical side of things. You know, you get some insane damage, crushing blow, life leech, all this good stuff. And oddly, cannot be frozen built in. So you know, if you don't care about AR, you don't need a Raven Frost or some other slam somewhere. You've got cannot be frozen on your weapon. So when I built a melee sorceress, as I said, seasons back, using enchants, and I actually put this rune word in a Caduceus, so I was fairly fast. Or no, it might have been a Phase Blade, I don't remember. I've built this so many times. I love Eternity, it's great. Expensive, but great. So I was using it and joining in. I was like, I'm not going to stand around after my enchants. The revives are tanking for me and using the enchant damage. I'm going to get involved in hit 2. In fact, I think I put it in a Scourge style points. You got that lovely, you know, whipping motion. Characters hit with the flail. It looks cool. The problem with this build, which I'll say now because I'm looking at it. 10% reanimate as Wraith, and the 2% reanimate as Fallen Shaman, and 5% reanimate as Fallen. Now, with this build, you don't get them. That is because revives and pets and things don't proc reanimate as, which kind of sucks. So, with this new totem, I'll just say it now. If you wanted access to that Fallen Shaman and Fallen scenario to flood the screen and have some additional revives, instead of building what I've done here, you just want to build your standard Poison Nova, Desecrate, Poison Strike, 60 points in there, and then max revives. Then after that, you get 17 points in lower resist, and then you're done. And so, whenever you're blowing things up with your Desecrate and they're melting with your Poison Nova, you're getting the screen flooded with Wraiths, Shaman, and Fallen. You still get, because you've got those two, you would still get 18 revives. Although I wouldn't recommend Eternity in that build, of course. You need cast rate with the Desecrate Poison Nova scenario. So, probably just this, a Death's Web, and then you'll really flood the screen with me much more efficiently than I'm doing it now. Although I just, like I said, the idea of lots of revives. So, I went with as many just plus skills as possible with this one. So we have a Shaco, Curse Resistant Slams, not brilliant. Again, you want plus skills here, Slam. Got an in it to keep my res up because my Sacred Totem slammed badly. This is a great new shield, by the way. It really is. Like I said, it's just, I've used it in the wrong capacity. 2 to Necromancer skills is great. It's not variable. It's just a solid 2. So if you slam +1 on there, it's a 3 shield. Put 2 puzzle box it for 2. Couple of runes. Happy days. The fact that you get some pluses to lower resist, because if you were a Poison Mancer, as I said, you can't max lower resist. You only get up to about 17, the way I build it. So the extra 3 to lower resist takes you to the top 20. And then you get some extra to amp for those times where you just can't break that poison immune, which isn't often. So then you can use amp and then rely on your sea of revives and reanimated as to do the damage for you. So it's useful because you don't have any points to put into amplify damage. It is a prerequisite in that build, 1 point only. So getting a few extra is kind. So yeah, and that's pretty much what that is for. I think it's a pretty cool new item. I was just using it wrong in this bit. Alright, so Mara's with a Rubbish Slam. Again, you want that maxed out with skills as usual. Probably some higher res too. But again, I just put it on skills to get the revives up. Same with this, skills. I was lacking some res, so it has an Ore to the Thull in it, my Ghetto Skin of the Viper Magi, yeah. I have some boots here you can't see because my melon head's in the way again. So it's just some tri-res, a bit of life, faster run walk, so I've got mobility, because again, I'm fairly squishy apart from the bone shield, so I need to just maneuver around, casting my curses and watching everything melt. So just some random boots there. Cast rate ring, just so I can cast things quickly, but mostly for the res, probably. Mana after each kill, useful. Arachnid's Mesh with energy. Energy is actually, obviously it's not the best slam here, but it's a decent slam because energy bulks up my bone armor. So I was like, I'm okay with that. Okay. But yeah, mostly just there for the skills, of course. And then another cast rate ring with lots of res. Again, just to, get the res up. Cast rate. And of course, you can't leave home without Trang's Claws because it's +2 to curses, and you really want to get those curses up. Get as much amp and decrepify and all that good stuff in as possible. Third curse rotation wise, I tend to use life tap. The revives don't need it, but the Iron Golem and your Mercenary do. So I'll cast Decrepify, then amp, then life tap. If I'm against the boss, it'll be amp, life tap, weaken. Standard 3 combo I always use. And if for some reason I'm going gung-ho on elements, I throw in amp, life tap, low resist maybe. Weaken's great, it really, really is. I love that curse. It just depends on where it makes it in the rotation. On a Dark Pact Necromancer, it'd be Decrepify, amp, life tap, weaken. And then if people are complaining at me in a public map, why don't you use low resist? I'm like, hey man, I got 1 point in low resist and enough skills to make it worthwhile. Quit your bitching. Yeah. So, that is gear. And we'll move on to charms. So I have my torch. Some life and res to make up what I was missing. And then I got some summoning skillers. Again, that one's really nice. That one's nice, but the rest of them are kind of rubbish. Just to get as much into the revives as possible. And I got some Curse Skillers left over because I didn't have enough summoning. Again, end of season, I'm not farming. Some Curse Skillers left over for my Dark Pact Necromancer, which help out with, again, the Decrepify, etc. Annie, just again, get the skills up. And then this is sort of faster hit recovery and some life and things just to make sure that if I get ganked, I've got some life to help me out. So moving on to the Mercenary. So my Mercenary, as I said, is a hangover from Dark Pact. So he's got a Delirium helmet so that, again, if he gets hit, he's casting a curse that I could blow up. Still fairly useful on this build. What's wrong with me? Plague for the Cleansing Aura, which is useful. I like the Cleansing Aura. It's another reason why I'd have an Act 3 Mercenary. You know, Meteor is physical and fire, so I can still use my lower res and amp like I was talking about with the Curse Tree, getting involved with those things. So yeah, I'd probably swap him for an Act 3 Mercenary of some description. But yeah, he's got Gloom on, so again, dim vision when struck. This is one of the things I'm actually happy with keeping, and I'd probably transfer it to the Act 3 Mercenary because, you know, souls are dangerous, they shoot you, but then they get locked down with dim vision in the distance. So it's not just useful for Dark Pact, because that's a curse that immediately gets applied and then I can blow up things in the distance. But it's also useful for this build just to shut things down in the distance. And then prized Deadly Strike Blood Fists and some Open Wounds belt, quite nice. Big life bonus. And then Cannot Be Frozen boots, just cheap. I love Rite of Passage, cheap and cheerful. Cannot Be Frozen, stick it on a Mercenary. And this is a good slam with, you know, 36 to life. Decent slam. But yeah, as I said, experiment with Mercenaries. I would, again, the other reason I kept him, Might Aura. So all of my revives get Might. But again, if you've got the cash, go nuts. Get an Act 2 Mercenary with, you know, Defiance Aura. So the revives are all very tanky. Give him a Pride Stick, Templar's Armor. Go nuts. So, my Mercenary's Breakpoints, not that it really matters because he's not the right one, but yeah, he's got fairly decent fast hit recovery with his gear, decent res, he's fighting the good fight. So my Breakpoints, we have decent res, not much to say there really. We don't have much, again, reductions and things, but we're hiding behind an absolute veritable cloud of revives, so don't worry about that. 13% Poison Mastery comes from the Trangs, but we're not using that. Again, if I'm spamming Desecrate, fun reasons on a boss, you know, to tickle. So we're at the 75 fast cast rate breakpoint, which is enough. You know, we're mostly a summoner, but it does help to get the curses out. You don't need to go to 125, not really. Fast hit recovery is useless. I'd much rather have it at 56. 86 is a bit of a stretch on Necros, I think. 56 is fine. But again, we're hiding behind revives. 26 is fine. 4 life per kill and 2 mana per kill. Useless. Using pets. Unfortunate, isn't it? So yeah, really, you just want to make sure you got some cast rate and a tiny bit of fast hit recovery. You know, let the revives tank for you. So map choices with this one. You can go anywhere again. I hate saying it because it sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but you can. You can go anywhere. If you want to go with a map like, for example, Ariat Battlefield for a tier 1 has 100% physical immunity. You still got Amp, still bring it down. And then every other tier 1 map has very low physical immunity, so you'll be fine. When you start getting up to the tier 2s, like River of Blood has low physical immunity. If you wanted to do any of the other ones, though, you could just summon some extra elemental and then pop out, you know, lots of lower resist and just go that little bit slower. It's really not a big deal. But yeah, I like this build because it's super safe. You can go anywhere with it. You are a little slow, as I said, when it comes to killing trash mobs. But holy bejeez, do you rinse bosses with this? I thought it'd be the other way around. All those revives knocking around, you know, they're sort of slappity slap, happy days, lots of curses. But yeah, stacking it up against a boss, wow. I'd be tempted to show you guys that, but take my word for it. But yeah, I'll pull out a random map. So Demon Road, 45% physical. It's nice and easy. So we'll just pull out a random rare map. Again, we're not bettering here. So yeah, example gameplay. What I do, before I go into Demon Road, my favourite place to go with the way I've designated this build now is to go into Crystalline Passage. Right, so what we do, pump out our battle orders, so we get ourselves nice and chunky, and then throw down some revives in here. Now, there's a lot of choice in here, as you can see, which is kind of frustrating. However, the ones we want are Bloodlords, So at first I'll just move away a bit from the mess. You can blow them up with Corpse Explosion, which is useful, but we get as many Bloodlords as we can. Yeah. No, for it to be not unreasonable. And while we're down here, actually, if we were going elemental, Frozen Creepers, this is why the best place to come to is Crystalline Passage. Frozen Creepers with the jetting out crazy big Arctic blasts and having 10 of them is really good as well. I say really good, it's good for what it does. It's not brilliant. As I said, you're better off just going physical. It was always a physical skill, so, you know, we can dream. So anyway, sometimes I get bored because I'm reviving here, as you can see, and you don't get many Bloodlords. So what I like to do is, like, if there's Succubi, I go with it, because Succubi is your next choice, as I said. There you go, we've got that many Bloodlords now. So what I'll do, I'll just unsummon that Succubi for a minute. The reason I've done that, because when you switch like that, it will remove the 10. Even though, annoyingly, you still have that on your Switch. Like I said, I really want the devs to look into that one. I bitch about it on every video, but if you've got it on you still, when you switch, like the Eternity and the Sacred Totem, I'd love some coding to be in there that doesn't destroy everything. It just means you can't have Call to Arms on Switch and have battle-ordered all 18 revives. You can only have 8 of them. It probably sounds a bit like, oh, boo-hoo, it's still good. I'm like, yeah, it is. That's why I'm doing it. So you revive 8 Bloodlords, well, Moonlords, whatever you want to call them. Give them some battle orders so they're tanky boys, and mostly battle command for their damage. After that, you go nuts reviving, and you start pulling up every Succubi you can. Succubus you can. All the Succubi. And if you want, you can pull out a few Bloodlords if it's going a bit slow. Because, as I said, they do get in each other's way. Like I said, with the gameplay factor. You don't need so many melee combatants. You can get away with probably 10 before they really start getting in each other's way. So, you know, persevere with it, guys. I know it's a bit rubbish, but, you know, for the sake of it. You can have Snowdrifters, you could go to River of Flame and get Urdars for Crushing Blow. There's all kinds of things you can do, but I really like this combination because it shreds. But I'm going to just do that a second, because it was in the way of the Succubi. We're nearly there. See, there we go. That's 18 revives now. We're good to go. We pop on our bone armor. I like to keep blood warp on right click, and then here we go. We've got desecrate there. You can have move only, but I'm not bothered because it's still an attack. You know? So we're running along. Thank God for those 2 Pally Potions. Right, we teleport in, and that is without me even casting a curse right now. Because the reason we take the Succubi is not just for that crazy range damage you can see there by shooting out blood stars, which is nuts. But they've got a screen-wide lower defense curse, as you can see. It's huge. In fact, I'd love to just quickly show you guys an example of it, somewhere you can really see it. Somewhere you can really see it's Frozen Tundra. If we just pop to Frozen Tundra and find some bosses. Monsters with that. See how big that was? See how big that was? That's insane. When they cast it, especially in the dark, if you go to the... See, look at that. Wow. That's insane. It's one of the reasons I've just stopped, not bothered with respecking curses. I cast a Prep, I cast Amp, and then the Succubi casts whatever the name of that curse is that lowers defense. So it just means everything gets slapped. It's really cool, but like I said, I wouldn't recommend it as a powerhouse, I'm going to do 5-minute maps kind of thing, but it is still really cool. So again, there we go, Decrepify, Amp, it's already down before then. The Frenzy Tools get charged up, they're you know, tanking, wiping things out. Everything's got might. Go for the Mercenary. As you saw a minute ago, when the lower resist when struck, because the Barbarian got hit. Display. I got hit. Just recast Bone Armor. I noticed it was down. Still talking. Oh yes, there we go. We chart. That's now 3 curses. We got the damage one, right, defense one even, then my 2 damage ones. So yeah. And as you can see, it is a veritable stream of blood stars when they're in the right place. See that, guys? I had it a minute ago where it was just like a corridor. There we go. It's all corridor play. It absolutely wipes. I mean, it's kind of slow. They come out kind of slow. So you think it might be a bit rubbish, but like I said, if you get in there, yeah, a nice cheeky little bone visage. with 21 replenish life. Boo! I love replenish life. Great stat. Underrated. Yeah, so that's the nature of the beast. Like I said, you don't do very well against trash. As you can see, it's pretty slow against the trash mobs. It really is. Let's get a corridor. Look. It's cool. I love the just sheer amount of blood stars coming out. Again, I'd love to show you by dismissing all of the frenzy tours, but there's no point. You know, you can see that it pwns. And then if I was to just, you know... There we go, look. Yeah, you get the point. But yeah, trust me, it absolutely destroys bosses. You just teleport near the boss like that, everything starts shooting blood stars, and they just start rinsing him down because of the absolute sheer speed of frenzy tours. But yeah, play about with the summons, figure out combos of what you like. My parting note to you guys with this one is when I was leveling up, walking hell from Act 1 to Act 5, I was just using whatever I felt like. When you're in Act 1, you can keep popping back to the cold plains and getting Dark Lancers and Dark... not Rangers, the other ones, Sword and Board. But most importantly, you can get the Brutes. You know, gargantuan beasts and things. You know, I was actually running around with all 18 of those. The screen was big and fluffy. Again, they kept getting each other's way. You didn't get sort of maximum amounts of hits in with them, but they slap. In Act 2, I like to revive, even though it's magic damage, I like to revive Haradrim Ancients and stuff. Well, that's the Act 3 name of them. But again, shooting the black Dark Stars with magic damage, they really hurt. And again, you can have 10 of them at the back shooting. But yeah, play around with combos. Have fun with it. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you all, you know, liking the memes. And I'll see you again soon. Take care.